There is a silent war within each of us, a battle not waged with swords, but with choices. One side is chaos, the easy way, the indulgent way, the drifting. The other is order, the difficult path, the painful truth, the discipline that builds a soul. And it is here, at this crossroads, that we must ask, what do I believe I am worthy of? Discipline is not punishment. It is not restriction. It is the highest act of self-respect. To discipline oneself is to say, I matter, my life matters, my future deserves effort, my soul deserves order. Sacrifice in its truest form is not about loss. It is about transformation. It is not the destruction of something valuable, but the offering of what is lower, temporal, or distracting, in exchange for something higher, eternal, and deeply real. We have misunderstood sacrifice in the modern world. We see it as deprivation, as denial, as a kind of moral punishment for being too ambitious or too hungry for greatness. But this is a shallow understanding. True sacrifice is sacred. It is the ritual by which we align with the deeper rhythms of the soul. In the ancient world, sacrifice meant bringing the best of what you had to the altar, not because the gods needed it, but because you did. To give something up willingly, with reverence, was a declaration. This thing I give away. This comfort, this ease, this indulgence, does not own me. I am not ruled by appetite. I belong to something higher. When you live without discipline, you cling to everything, every pleasure, every excuse, every moment of gratification. You accumulate, but you do not grow. The ego hoards, terrified of emptiness, but the soul longs to offer. It longs to release what is false so that what is true can emerge. Discipline then becomes the sacred exchange, the daily act of sacrifice where you trade the shallow for the deep, the convenient for the meaningful. You wake up early not to punish yourself, but to honor the stillness that speaks before the world begins its noise. You resist distraction not because you are a martyr, but because you know your focus is a gateway to something precious, something divine. Each time you say no to what is base, you say yes to what is noble. You carve a space within the psyche for the soul to breathe, and in this space wisdom grows, strength matures, integrity sharpens. You become the kind of person who can carry the weight of your destiny because you have trained yourself not to be ruled by every passing impulse. This exchange is not instant. The rewards do not always arrive immediately. Sometimes they come silently, like a slow unfolding of peace within. Other times they appear years later, in the form of resilience during crisis, clarity in confusion, or the ability to stand alone with dignity when others collapse. Discipline accumulates in the invisible places. It builds a kind of inner nobility that cannot be faked. The undisciplined life asks, why should I suffer now? But the disciplined soul asks, what will this sacrifice make of me? That is the deeper question. Because you are not giving something up arbitrarily, you are shaping yourself. You are entering into the ancient pattern of metamorphosis, where the caterpillar must let go of crawling to become what flies. There is pain in this, but it is holy pain, the kind that redeems, not destroys. And perhaps the greatest truth is this: sacrifice clarifies what you truly value. If you cannot give something up, it owns you. If you can let it go with purpose, then you own yourself. That is freedom. That is self-respect. In every small act of discipline, you are telling your unconscious, I am ready to be more than I have been. And the unconscious hears it. And it begins to respond. Opportunities shift, desires change, new energies stir from the depths. You are no longer merely surviving. You are participating in your own evolution. This is the exchange. Sacred, necessary, beautiful, and once you understand this, discipline ceases to be a burden. It becomes a kind of quiet devotion to your own unfolding, not because you are trying to prove something, but because you have seen a glimpse of what is possible, and now you cannot go back. We often imagine the soul as something wild, something that must be left to roam freely, untouched by schedules, boundaries, or responsibility. We associate creativity with chaos, authenticity with spontaneity, and spiritual aliveness with the absence of constraint. But this is only half the truth. What we forget is that no fire lasts without a hearth, no river flows without banks to shape it, and no soul, no matter how luminous, can express itself fully without structure. Structure is not the enemy of the soul, it is its necessary container. The soul is vast, formless, deep, it touches the eternal, but without the form offered by discipline, ritual, and routine, that vastness spills out into confusion. It becomes scattered, fragmented. The person who refuses structure often finds themselves lost not in freedom, but in formlessness. They drift. They are prey to moods, urges, impulses. They mistake chaos for aliveness, but what they are really experiencing is a loss of inner orientation, a disconnection from their center. Discipline is the sacred act of giving form to the formless. It is the decision to carve out space, time, and rhythm for the soul to dwell. When you rise at the same hour each day to create, to study, to reflect, you are building an invisible temple around your inner life. When you repeat actions of integrity, of effort, of care, you are laying bricks, quietly, steadily, until one day you realize you are living within something holy, something stable, something enduring. Without structure, our higher self remains a ghost, present but unmanifested. It hovers in dreams, in longings, in brief flashes of clarity that vanish just as quickly as they arrive. But with structure, we invite that ghost to take form. We call it down from the mountain and give it a body, a voice, a discipline through which it can act in the world. Structure is the soul's commitment to incarnation. It is the way we say, I will not merely feel my potential, I will build a life that can hold it. This is no small task. It requires the sacrifice of distraction, the patience to repeat, and the humility to begin again and again when we falter. But what is built in this way becomes sacred over time, not because others see it, but because you know what it cost you. You begin to move differently when your life is structured in service to something higher. You stop rushing, you stop reacting, you enter into rhythm with your deeper nature. There is a calm that begins to grow, not the calm of idleness, but the calm of alignment. The calm of someone who has found their tempo and knows they are moving in tune with something real. In ancient temples, the architecture was designed not just for beauty, but for soul, conduction. The pillars, the shadows, the light, all serve to create a space where the divine could be felt. Your life can become such a place. Your habits, your routines, your discipline, these are your pillars. These are your sacred walls. And when they are built with intention, the soul comes, not as a sudden lightning strike, but as a quiet, enduring presence that fills the space you have made for it. This is not rigidity. This is reverence. There is nothing lifeless about true discipline. It is not mechanical repetition. It is mindful devotion. The difference is everything. The person who moves through structured days with awareness is not imprisoned. They are rooted. They are free in a way the chaotic never are, because their inner world is not subject to every wind that blows. They have created a sanctuary within themselves, and they carry that sanctuary wherever they go. The soul thrives when it is honored with form, and every act of discipline, no matter how small, is a way of saying, I am willing to become a vessel. I am willing to shape my life so that something eternal might dwell within it. This is not about control. It is about consecration. You are not building a cage, you are building a temple, and in that temple the sacred parts of you, once scattered, once ignored, once drowned in the noise of the world, can begin to speak, to act, and to lead. Time is the great silent presence in all our lives. It does not speak, but it watches. It does not chase, but it waits. It does not forgive, but it teaches. Most people live in rebellion against time, fleeing its constraints, fearing its speed, resenting its silence. But time is not an enemy. It is not something to outrun. It is something to enter into relationship with. Discipline is how we speak to time with respect. Every small act done consistently is a word, a phrase, a sentence spoken in the language time understands. When you show up again and again, whether anyone sees you or not, you are not merely being productive. You are establishing a rhythm. You are weaving meaning into the very fabric of your days. You are entering into dialogue with a force far greater than yourself. There is a profound illusion that deceives the undisciplined mind, the belief that time owes you something, that if you wait long enough, the right moment will arrive, that if you merely desire something hard enough, it will come. But time does not respond to desire, it responds to commitment. It responds to ritual. It responds to those who are willing to shape it through consistent action. To live with discipline is to speak a word each day into the unfolding story of your life. You may not yet know the shape of that story. You may be in the first few chapters, uncertain of the plot. But each day you choose discipline, you move the narrative forward, you give it shape, you make it real. And slowly, time begins to respond, doors open, patterns emerge, and what once felt chaotic begins to cohere. Those who drift through time unconsciously are always surprised by where they end up. They look back in regret and ask, how did I get here? But the disciplined soul asks different questions, not only of the past, but of the future. What am I moving toward? What will I become if I continue like this for a month, a year, a decade? They are not trying to control time. They are collaborating with it. They are aware that every action today echoes into the architecture of tomorrow. There is something deeply humbling about this realization. Time is indifferent to who you wish you were. It does not listen to fantasy, to talk, to longing. It listens to what you do consistently, deliberately, even when no one is watching. That is what time listens to. That is what it magnifies. And yet, this is not a cold truth. It is a liberating one. Because it means that greatness, transformation, and beauty are not reserved for the exceptional. They are accessible to the quiet, to the ordinary, to anyone who is willing to work in harmony with time. If you honor it, time will begin to shape you. If you show up for it, time will open to you, not immediately but inevitably. There is no such thing as a wasted disciplined act. Even if the external world shows no reward, something inside you shifts. There is a slow accumulation of strength, of clarity, of inner structure. You begin to carry yourself differently, not because you have arrived, but because you know you are in motion. You are in alignment with something timeless, something sacred. And eventually, the very texture of your experience changes. Time no longer feels like a threat or a thief. It becomes a companion, a sculptor, a mirror. And you begin to sense that every moment of effort, every repetition, every resistance to distraction is not merely about efficiency. It is about shaping your soul to be capable of carrying what is coming. To live with discipline is to honor the mystery of time, to trust that the seeds you plant today, if watered faithfully, will grow into something far larger than you imagined, not on your schedule, not in your preferred timeline, but in a way that is mysteriously right. Time is not your servant, and you are not its victim. You are co-creating with it every single day. Discipline is the voice you speak into that silence, and over time, if you have been faithful in the small things, the silence speaks back. The resurrection of worth is not an event marked by a single turning point, but a slow and sacred awakening that begins in silence. It does not announce itself with applause or recognition. Rather, it stirs beneath the ruins of one's abandoned self, where the soul has been exiled by years of neglect, shame, and compromise. This is where worth begins again, not in the bright places, but in the quiet ones where you sit alone, wondering if you matter. To resurrect your worth is to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. It is to reach into the depths of your forgotten self and reclaim what was always sacred. Not because someone finally told you so, but because in your bones, in your being, in your breath, you already know. It is a remembering that comes not from the mind, but from the soul's echo, reminding you that value is not earned through performance or perfection, but recognized through presence. The mere fact that you exist is evidence of your worth, but it takes great courage to believe this in a world that profits from your doubt. There is a dignity that returns to a person who has suffered the loss of themselves and still chooses to rise. This rising is not glamorous. It is not lit by the eyes of others. It is private, sacred, and slow. You learn to speak to yourself gently. You learn to stop negotiating your value with people who cannot see it. You learn to walk away, not to win, but to preserve what is holy within you. And little by little, the fragments of your forgotten worth begin to gather, not as trophies, but as quiet reminders. You were never broken, only buried. You begin to understand that true worth does not need to be proven. It needs to be lived. It needs to be honored in how you speak to yourself, how you treat your body, how you protect your time, and how you decide who gets access to you. Worth, when resurrected, demands boundaries. It becomes unwilling to be used as currency in relationships that thrive on imbalance. It stops shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold it. It begins to take up space, not with arrogance, but with undeniable presence. There is no final arrival in the resurrection of worth. It is a daily devotion, a constant choosing. Some days it falters, some days it glows. But once you have glimpsed your inherent value, you can never fully go back to living as if you are expendable. The resurrection of worth is the soul's rebellion against invisibility. It is the quiet declaration, I am here. I am enough, I am not a mistake, and from that sacred ground everything begins to change, not because the world sees you differently, but because you finally do. Discipline is not about control, it is about reverence. It is the sacred ritual of remembering that your life is not random, your actions are not meaningless, your pain is not wasted. When you live with discipline, you declare to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, I respect who I am becoming. And that, above all, is the beginning of a soul awakened.